Day one in the books. Let's talk about it right now on Fantasy Football Today in 5. Sorry, rookies. I know this is your day. This is your moment. Awesome stuff, but we got bigger things, bigger fish to fry. A.J. Brown of the Eagles, Marquis Brown of the Cardinals. Adam Azer here with Jamie Eisenberg. We will talk about the rookies in just a second, but give me your quick thoughts on the A.J. Brown trade, fantasy impact there.
Yeah, slight downgrade for A.J. Brown, going to a situation where, at least as of now, if you could think of a team that would be worse in terms of pass volume, it's actually the Eagles. Everybody thinks the Titans just run the ball, but the Eagles were worse. And so we'll see if there's a change there. But Brown clearly makes Jalen Hurts much better. Downgrade, for Devontae Smith, and slight downgrade for Dallas Goedert. But hopefully A.J. Brown can still play like a number one wide receiver. I'm just not going to rank him as a number one wide receiver. I think he's now a third-round pick as opposed to a mid-second-round pick.
Would you rather have Treylon Burks, the new rookie wide receiver for the Titans, or Devontae Smith?
I'd rather have Treylon Burks. I'd rather have Drake London, and I might rather have Chris Olave as well. I think Devontae Smith, just based on what we saw last year, certainly flashes of brilliance, but clearly the offense, I think, bogged him down, and now you bring in a legit alpha receiver. I think that's going to be tough for Devontae Smith to be the type of guy we thought he was going to be last year.
How do you feel about Marquis Brown? What is the impact here of Marquis Brown going to the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, slight downgrade as well. More so than the downgrade for A.J. Brown in terms of percentage, because if DeAndre Hopkins is healthy, A.J. Green's still there. I think Rondale Moore will have a bigger role to whatever extent. Marquis Brown not going to be the guy that we saw last year when he had over 140 targets. He's probably closer to 100 to 120. This move is certainly to make Kyler Murray happy. But if Hopkins misses any time like we saw last year, is slow coming off of the injury, then it's a win for Marquis Brown. So he's still going to be a borderline number 3 wide receiver. I don't think you run away from him as a starter in a 3-receiver league, but this was a borderline number 2 guy for me as the number 1 guy in Baltimore. So his absence creates the opportunity for Rashad Bateman to be a legit number 3 receiver. I know a lot of people are excited about him, myself included. Now you have to be more excited. So we'll see what the rest of the draft brings for the Ravens receiving corps, and really no change for Lamar Jackson. Slight bump for Mark Andrews. I think you feel pretty good about him as a round 2 pick for sure.
Yeah. What about Andrews versus Kelsey now?
I'm still going to lean toward Kelsey because, they also lost somebody pretty big in that receiving corps with the Tyreek Hill gone. So you can make a case, both these guys, for the number 1 spot at the tight end position. I'm just going to give Kelsey the slight edge there based on no Tyreek Hill. So maybe a bump in targets for him from Patrick Mahomes. A little bit better scenario for me.
6 wide receivers off the board. At 8 overall, it was Drake London to the Falcons. 10th overall, Garrett Wilson to the Jets. Then 11th, Chris Olave to the Saints. Jameson Williams went 12th. To the Lions. Then we had Jahan Dotson going to Washington at 16 and Treylon Burks to Tennessee. So between picks 8 and 18, we had 6 wide receivers come off the board. Your overall thoughts? I feel like, not great overall for these rookies.
No, I don't think it's that bad for, the 2 guys that could be the number 1 receivers in their respective offenses, Drake London and Treylon Burks. The quarterback situation clearly is the concern. But obviously Ryan Tannehill showed you that he could support, a pretty good wide receiver in A.J. Brown, and hopefully, Treylon Burks steps into that role and runs away with it. Robert Woods is going to be his, top competition for targets, and he's 29 years old coming off of an ACL tear. So clearly the Titans, it was almost back-to-back. They make the trade and then they draft Treylon Burks. It happened almost simultaneously. And so, they clearly targeted, that player, and hopefully he lives up to it. And then you look at, Drake London's situation. No Calvin Ridley. Marcus Mariota hopefully will play at a high level. He's going to have to compete with Kyle Pitts for targets, but there's just, plenty of targets there. So I think both those guys, I give London a slight nod over Burks, but they're back-to-back, essentially 1 and 1A. By the time, we get to August, I might like Burks better. So I think these 2 guys are in good spots, and hopefully the quarterback play can support their talent and they, produce at that level.
And just real quick, who's the best for Dynasty right now?
I still think it's London. He was going to be in the conversation no matter where he ended up, if he ended up in a situation where he could command targets. And this was one of the best landing spots from a target share perspective, where there's no guarantee that Calvin Ridley's back with the Falcons next year following a suspension. I do expect a quarterback upgrade at some point, but I also think Marcus Mariota can play well enough to support Drake London for this year and maybe next year if that's the case as well. So I don't think that will be the case, but in any event, I like London as the 101 right now at the wide receiver position.
All right. That is Jamie Eisenberg. I am Adam Azer. Thank you very much for listening to Fantasy Football Today in 5. We'll talk to you tomorrow after the second day of the NFL draft. See you then.